What is immortality? In 40k, the concept of immortality is perhaps a little skewed in comparison to how we see it in the present day. 40 millennia into the future, where there exists only conquest, demonic incursions, and intergalactic alien conflict, the meaning of immortality has changed drastically. We, as people in 2025, see immortality as the concept of an unending existence, eternal life, and the ability to experience reality with infinite possibility. But in 40k, where the average human life is one of torment and toil, where your homeworld could be set upon without warning by a variety of hostile alien species, or subjected to the wrath of the gods of chaos, or even exterminated by the very Imperium to which you have sworn allegiance, the concept of immortality has lost some of its luster. Now, before we get further into the video, if you end up liking this one, subscribe to the channel. So, Space Marines, with potential lifetimes of multiple millennia, are the closest thing to a truly immortal being that any human will see, if they are so blessed to lay eyes upon one of the Emperor's angels in their short, insignificant life. With that being said, no one truly knows the actual lifespan of a Space Marine. If you're a fan of 40k novels, you'll have personally been witness to the internal monologue of many a Marine as they contemplate the inevitable fate that awaits them. Space Marines don't die of old age, not because they are truly immortal and have infinite lifespans, but because dying of old age in 40k just straight up doesn't happen. Despite their additional organs and their power armor and their rigorous survival training, Space Marines are doomed to die on the battlefield. Perhaps if a Marine went rogue and left his chapter and instead of dedicating himself to chaos worship, dedicated himself to growing yams on a peaceful paradise world far away from any conflict, which would never happen for about 500 different reasons, we would perhaps see the true lifespan of a Space Marine. In the novel Pandorax, an Inquisitor discovers a Grey Knight who had been in a self-imposed suspended animation. The Inquisitor, Zula, and the Knight, Epimetheus, have the following conversation.
How long have you been down here?
I'm unsure. My implants were keeping me in a state of suspended animation. It was only the psychic wards I left in place that alerted me to the traitor's presence in the seal chamber and roused me. What year is it?
It is the 959th year of the 41st millennium.
In that case, I have been down here almost 10,000 years.
Sick voice acting, by the way, huh? Yeah, we're going to keep working on that. So, a Space Marine can literally chill in a self-induced coma for 10,000 years if they so need to. The fact that most Marines are almost constantly engaged in battle leads to them only living a handful of centuries. Dante, Lord Commander of the Imperium Nihilus and Chapter Master of the Blood Angels, is a rare exception to this rule, as he has lived for over 1,500 years. He's also a space vampire who can regain some degree of youth by drinking blood. So, yeah. My point here is that it's truly very difficult to accurately assess true immortality in 40k. At least if you're a non-perpetual or you haven't given your soul over to a god of chaos and become a demon. And those are both topics for other videos. To the regular Imperial citizens of the galaxy, Space Marines, with lifespans in the hundreds of years, may as well be immortal. And to the Space Marines themselves, to whom their increased lifespan is nothing interesting, there is one path to some greater degree of unending existence. Perhaps the only way for a non-perpetual, non-demonic being to truly achieve immortality, to truly grant them the possibility of unending life. This is a fate that, despite its offerings, despite the honor associated with it, is looked at by the vast majority of Space Marines as a fate worse than death. To become a venerated brother, to whom one's fellow Space Marines would give the utmost respect. To become a Dreadnought. There are many unfortunate fates that can befall a living being in the world of Warhammer 40,000. Being interred in a suffocating robotic coffin with life support systems jammed into your broken and shattered body, with your only door to the outside world being welded into place for eternity, is pretty bad. There are way worse fates, because 40k is 40k, but still, becoming a Dreadnought kinda sucks. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, let's look at how and why Dreadnoughts are made. When a Space Marine receives wounds in battle that would prove lethal if serious interventions are not taken, they become prime candidates for Dreadnoughtification. That is to say, a Space Marine will have to be so badly injured that becoming a Dreadnought is essentially the only possible option for a continued existence. The battered and torn body of the Space Marine will be interred in a cyborganic, which is a real word, by the way, sarcophagus, with all necessary life support systems installed, which will then in turn be locked away forever within a massive robotic frame fitted with powerful, devastating weapon systems. In that sense, the Dreadnought itself is the only thing that keeps the Space Marine alive, while simultaneously acting as its prison. Were any of the life support systems to be damaged, or were the sarcophagus to be opened in any way, the Space Marine would be subjected to a pretty quick death, probably actually an immediate death. It would be very fast, especially when you're fighting demons and the Tyranids and orcs and literally anything you would be fighting if you were a Space Marine. Now, you may be wondering if the Marines that are unlucky enough to receive the tremendous honor of becoming a Dreadnought are at least comfortable in their waking tombs of ceramite and adamantium, and the answer is, of course, no. In fact, existence as a Dreadnought is often so painful and jarring, both physically and mentally, to a revered warrior such as an Astartes, that they are put into an induced coma of sorts in between battles, sometimes sleeping away decades or even centuries within the holy sanctums of their given chapter. While this sleep is often welcomed by the Dreadnought pilot, it also serves to further alienate them from those who they hold most dear, their fellow battle brothers. Astartes have no family aside from their fellow Marines, those whom they fight and train alongside every day for literal centuries. All Astartes are aware of the fate that likely awaits them, glorious death alongside their brothers in the name of the God Emperor, and they welcome it, as they see it as a fulfillment of their life's work. To die honorably on the battlefield after ruthlessly tearing apart as many of the enemy as possible is the dream of every Space Marine in the Imperium. To be saved from that glorious death, after having lost limbs, the ability to see, hear, and even speak, after having become nothing more than a husk of what one once was, and to then be placed in a metal tomb, never to see the light of day, never to feel the wind on one's face, never to feel the gears of one's chainsword ripping and tearing through the enemy, is truly a fate many Marines consider far worse than death. To top it off, the stasis that Dreadnoughts are put into in between battles can have the unfortunate effect of further alienating the pilot from his battle brothers, his only semblance of family. When decades or centuries pass between awakenings for Dreadnoughts, it is not at all uncommon for the pilot to be roused, only to learn of the death of many of his closest brothers, and to see that they have been replaced in turn by new Astartes. Not only can the pilot no longer talk to the only other living beings in the galaxy to whom he was close, but he is also once again reminded of the glorious end that was robbed from him, an end which his brothers fulfilled that he could not. Of course, this is all assuming that the Astartes that finds himself interred within the Dreadnought suit of armor can even remember who he once was. Like many pieces of technology in 40k, Dreadnought suits are never thrown away, and instead are reused and repaired if their pilot is somehow killed. It's well established that humanity has almost completely lost the ability to invent anything new, and must rely instead on keeping existing tech running, with Dreadnought suits being no exception. As a result, it's not uncommon for a Marine who is locked within his Dreadnought shell to eventually completely forget who he once was, as his Dreadnought is not truly his. It has kept the bodies and minds of multiple Marines before him alive and fighting in previous centuries and millennia, with each one leaving behind a part of himself within the Dreadnought. And so, there you have it. Perhaps the only way an Astartes can truly become immortal, to bypass the human effects of aging, which do affect even the inhuman Astartes. And while becoming a Dreadnought does provide its captive Astartes with a truly indeterminable lifespan, it also robs that Astartes of all things that one with an unending lifespan could even wish for. And that's that for Dreadnoughts. We didn't even get into any specific characters, like Bjorn the Fell-Handed, the oldest Dreadnought in the galaxy, or discuss the various types of Chaos Dreadnoughts. If you'd like to see me talk about either of those, or any other 40k topic, feel free to let me know in the comments. And if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching.